In this role play, I will be using solution-based therapy approaches to work with Kyron, who is a 45-year-old married white cis male. He has 2 kids, and he is currently coming to our sessions because he is experiencing anxiety and stress from the workplace. He is experiencing disrespectful, ineffective communication from his boss, who often will speak to him using demeaning words or phrases and kind of talk down to him, and won't give him very difficult projects because he, quote, doesn't think he can handle it, even though Kyron has been at his company for a long time and feels like he has really put in the work to prove that he knows what he's doing. And this session, I imagine that this was our 3rd session, so we've met twice before this, once a week. And since I am using solution-based therapy approach, the relationship between the counselor and client is really important. I imagine this relationship has become established enough that I, as the therapist, would feel confident using the miracle question intervention with this client. Hi, Kyron. How are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. So I was thinking about last week, you were reminding me how you were feeling anxious at work because your boss has been a little demanding and you have felt demeaned by some comments that he said. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Today I was wondering, would you be willing to play along with kind of an out of the ordinary question?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you leave this therapy session today, just imagine you're going to get in your car, you're going to drive home like you always do. You're going to walk in the door, say hi to your wife, kiss your kids hello, and then you'll eat dinner together as a family like you always do. I remember you saying how important that is to you. And you might watch a TV show with your kids or help them with their homework, just kind of go about your evening as normal, right? So then, you put the kids to bed after you've given them their baths, you kiss your wife goodnight, you crawl up in bed with your favorite book, turn off the light, and it's time to go to sleep. Now, while you're asleep, a miracle happens.
Okay.
Okay? This particular miracle, the way that it works is all of the problems that you came here today with are just gone. Okay? But the catch is you were asleep the whole time. So you didn't actually know that this miracle happened. Right? So you had a beautiful sleep, peaceful sleep, didn't even move a muscle the whole night. Right? So you wake up the next day. This miracle has happened overnight. You didn't have any clue that it happened because you were sleeping peacefully. This miracle that, as a reminder, everything you brought here today, it made it disappear. What is the first thing you notice as soon as you wake up?
How long I can take to get out of bed.
Okay, what is it that allows you to take that extra time?
I'm not stressed about all the work I have to do in the day.
Okay, you're not stressed about the work. That's good. What else? What are some other things you notice are different?
Treated with more respect in my job.
Okay. What does it look like to be treated with more respect?
Communicated with clearly, concisely, given expectations that are fair and in a timely fashion.
Okay.
In a respectful tone.
Okay, so getting spoken to in a respectful tone, being communicated with efficiently, effectively, appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So you can take your time getting out of bed. You're communicated with respectfully and effectively at work. What are some other things? Is there any other things in your life that you notice are different?
I have more energy.
More energy, okay. What are some things that you do with this energy?
Play with my kids.
Play with your kids. How would you play with your kids? And would it be something different than how you play with your kids now?
Yeah, assuming I have more time and more energy, we could do more outdoor activities.
Outdoor activities.
More remote activities.
More outdoor remote activities.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you've gotten your effective
Yeah.
communication going on
Yeah.
during the day at work with your boss. Okay. Okay, cool. So just out of that reflection, I feel like we've pinpointed kind of 3 distinct areas in which we might want to set goals to work toward. So I heard you can spend more time getting out of bed, getting ready in the morning, having effective and respectful communication at work, and then getting to spend some more time with your kids doing activities outdoors. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do those sound like good goals for you? Like, are those things that you want to accomplish?
Yeah. Yeah. Those are
Okay.
pretty good goals.
Okay, so now I kind of want to, let's pick one of those goals. Let's say, since your main reason you're here today is you're struggling with communication with your boss, right? So envision a scale of 0 to 10, 1 to 10. At the very low end is where you are when you decided to come talk to me about this, okay? And then at the other end of 10, that is perfect, amazing communication with your boss. You feel great leaving work. There's no anxiety present when you have to communicate with this person. You feel respected, you feel appreciated, some of the things that you've expressed that you desire in this relationship. Where would you feel that you are at today?
Two or a 3, maybe a 2.
A 2? Okay, so what would be different? I guess can you explain a little more? What would be different from a 2 if you were actually at a 10? What noticeable changes would you see in the situation?
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
Yeah, so I guess you identified how you would feel if you were respected at your job, right? If the communication was appropriate and respectful. What are some specific behaviors or some specific situations that would have to happen in order for you to feel like you were at a 10 in that scenario?
That are in my control or out of my control?
Either or.
Well, it would have to start from the top. So my boss would have to communicate with me more effectively, ensuring that I can get my deadlines done on time, knowing that no one's perfect. I surely make mistakes, so, there has to be tension there. But then, communicating with my peers, in that sense, that is something I could do that could be more effective. And then also trying to, I guess, get them to communicate with me.
Okay.
In turn.
So, what is different about being at a 2 than when you were at a 0? Because it's been about 3 weeks, right, since we've started meeting, and so you have moved from a 0 to a 2. What has changed in that time?
I think a little bit of it has to be perspective.
Okay.
Making the most out of the moments where it does work. But on top of that, I'd say that just being cognizant of the issues that I have in just alone make me a little more prepared to deal with the stress of them.
Okay, so being more aware
Yeah.
of the issues
Yeah,
that
awareness.
that are causing that stress.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think it would take to get to a 3? Or what does it look like to be at a 3, since you're at a 2 now?
A 3 probably looks like more interpersonal connection and communication at a peer level. Something that is manageable and within my pay grade, realistically.
Okay, so with your colleagues.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's think together. You want to have better communication with your colleagues. What are some ways that you feel connected to your colleagues?
I mean, we work in the same place. Clearly, our work. We have similar interests, like the same teams. We live in the same cities, so there's always the sports teams, and then a couple of them have kids.
Okay.
So children as well.
Yeah, so shared interests. That's awesome. What do you think? What do you think are some ways that maybe you can build that peer support among your colleagues in the next week?
Probably like a social event or something, right? Like a barbecue.
Okay. Okay. And a barbecue is great. Does take time to plan. One thing I might recommend is pick a colleague. You know, one maybe the person who sits next to you or the person you talk to at the water cooler, and maybe meet with them over your lunch break. And you can talk about your kids and talk about the outdoor activities you like or you desire to do with your children. Does that sound like something you might want to do?
Yeah, and it sounds super manageable.
Cool. Okay, well, that is your homework assignment.
Amazing.
Next week, I am looking forward to hearing all about your lunch with your colleague.
Awesome.
This is my analysis of the session with Kyron. I chose solution-based approach therapy because mostly I was really fascinated with the miracle question intervention when I read this chapter. I thought it was a really great way of inviting the client to imagine a world without their problem and to help them kind of start taking those steps towards developing their own solutions to their problems. Since, per the name, solution-based approaches are very solution-focused and not so much on the problem, though the problem is important and does help inform kind of the steps forward. So in the session, I used the miracle question intervention as the main approach to kind of help Kyron start thinking through how life would look differently if he didn't feel like he had that problem of anxiety and poor communication with his boss. And then using that, we identified 3 goals that we can work towards during our therapeutic time together, which was the spending more time with his children in outdoor activities, having more effective and respectful communication with his boss, and then having more time to get ready and to get out of bed in the morning because he didn't feel rushed and frenzied and in a hurry because of any reaction his boss might have. And then after helping Kyron to identify the goals that he had for himself, I utilized scaling questions to help him kind of place where he is at right now in his goal toward reaching these goals, and compared it to where he was when he first sought out treatment, which was only 3 weeks ago. So he placed himself at a 2, which kind of makes sense as far as making progress in that short amount of time, and then kind of helped him start to visualize what are the short-term steps that he can start taking to move himself up this ladder to eventually make his way to a 10 to the level of reaching the goals that he had predetermined. In comparison, I wanted to compare this to the narrative approach actually, because they're both kind of similar in that they are very optimistic, empathetic approaches and really encourage and believe in clients and support and empower them to, kind of bring their own thoughts into the session and kind of help develop the course of treatment and really have a hand in all of that. What I kind of felt would have been different is the way that we approached the miracle question. It was all very internalized. It was very focused on how Kyron felt about the experiences that he was having and how he would feel if those experiences were different. Whereas I think the narrative approach would focus on more of a wider realm of what are the sociocultural aspects to this issue? What are the things happening in society that are informing this situation, which could even mean what are the societal factors that are causing his boss to treat him a certain way, or what are the societal factors causing him to perceive his boss a certain way or perceive his relationship with his colleagues in a certain way. So I think it would definitely focus a lot more on those dominant discourses, and kind of comparing and contrasting where he thinks he should be right now versus where he is, and why he thinks maybe he hasn't gotten there yet, or what like roadblocks have been in his way. I didn't have too many multicultural considerations to go off of, with Kyron being a white, middle class, straight male with a traditional family structure. Yeah. I think the biggest thing to consider, more so is, I think, actually, sorry for all my stuttering, that would most come into play with what I was talking about with the narrative approach, with the kind of like societal expectations, or what he's heard his role should be, as a white middle class man, especially in the business world. I personally find a lot of strengths in the solution-based approach. I think it has a lot of good exercises to help someone kind of step out of focusing on the problem, because I do think it can be really easy to fixate on the problem and spend a lot of time focusing on that, and then not actually taking any steps toward a solution. So I really like the intentional questions, that the miracle question, the scaling questions, etc., that are happening in order to inspire thought and development, and to kind of help the client come up with steps themselves too, because I do think knowing that they came up with the steps themselves is a little more motivating than a therapist telling a client, like, you should do this. I do think a limitation is, obviously this was a role play, and I was working with a client who had a pretty strong handle on his issue, but excuse me, self-confidence could cause some difficulty in developing goals and developing structure there. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of a perfect miracle question situation, but there could be a lot more waffling around, not really sure what to think of, which would have involved a lot more involvement on my end. But then there also could have been a lot of skepticism. I know the Gahar chapter mentioned that, some people might say, I don't believe in miracles. So it is kind of an approach that makes you think outside of your normal line of thinking, and does require some flexibility and willingness to kind of play along, as I asked Kyron to do. And so that might not be something that every client is comfortable with. If I were to incorporate my CAT specialty, so music therapy, into this, I actually think the miracle question would work really well as a songwriting activity. Kind of like building the structure of a song, of like, maybe the first verse is focusing on the problem. So how are you feeling now, and what are the reasons that you're here, and how is that affecting you? And then, the second verse can be focused more on waking up the next day and realizing that things are different, but you don't quite know what it is. And, just writing this song about this experience of uncovering this miracle that's happened, that happened while you were asleep but changed everything. I think that could be a really cool way to kind of help flesh out any ideas or concepts that the client might have about how their life would be different were their problems to be taken care of overnight. So yeah, that's the end of my analysis.